Hello, howdy, how are ya? How's it going? Welcome to another episode of George Reviews. And welcome to the first edition of David Fincher December. We're all month long, and this month, that is December, we will be going over the amazing films and body of work of the great David Fincher, starting with what I consider his proper debut of the film Se7en, starring Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. So let's get into it. So if you asked me what the perfect thriller, if I had one choice to say what the perfect thriller would be, I would say Se7en. To me, that really encompasses everything a thriller should be. The dark, moody atmosphere, the questionable morality of the lead characters, and the kind of game and of mystery that is played between the antagonists and the two lead protagonists of Somerset and Mills. And like I said, I do consider this to be David Fincher's proper debut feature film. I know technically on paper he did direct Alien 3. That was released back in 1992, but I know that he disowns that film and was really burned by the studio and the pressure by producers, and really he lost that final cut. He lost that full control. This happened to many directors, especially with David Lynch with Dune and among others. I know Fincher related his experience in Alien 3. He's been quoted saying he would rather die of colon cancer than direct another film or something along those lines. Unfortunately, the script of Se7en came his way that was written by Andrew Kevin Walker. It kind of reinvigorated him to come back into the director's chair to make this, and technically he was actually supposed to make The Game before this, but because of Brad Pitt's busy schedule, he was only available to shoot Se7en at a certain amount of time, and so that kind of sealed the deal to make it Fincher's debut feature. I think it's the perfect debut feature for any filmmaker. I think it's one of the greatest films to come out of the 90s. It really cemented this really dark, disturbing kind of subject matter that kind of reinvigorated the thriller genre in a new and different way. I think that's very, very important, much like what Chinatown did for noir, Se7en did for the traditional thriller, and making it more grotesque and more demented and just sickening and just creepy and gets under your skin and just really shakes you and holds you. And I just really feel like Se7en does all those things very perfectly, and we just have to thank the Fincher for being a director another chance to come back and do this. The film follows two detectives, Mills, a rookie, and Somerset, who is about to retire, as they try to hunt down a serial killer who uses the 7 deadly sins as his MO. So this is a real rite of passage of a film from my generation in terms of what was on the tip of everyone's tongue, what people were kind of itching and scratching for, and the kind of darker kind of films people would want to consume, and really set up a cinematic palette for myself for really dark, disturbing, grotesque subject matter of morally questionable characters and really questionable situations for these characters, whether they're on the side of the protagonist or antagonist side of the coin. It really just makes a true subjective experience throughout this traditional thriller. There are a lot of different things that are kind of going through the story and through the characters. It does play out sort of like a procedural film, but also at the same time, gives you these little bits and pieces of the characters, and you really get to relate to them and really kind of connect and grow with them in a lot of different ways. That's a tremendous amount of recognition to Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, as well as Gwyneth Paltrow and many other of the ensemble of the film. It's just the cast, sprinkles all these little details that filter throughout the script that really make you connect with the characters. And it just really strikes that great balance of plot and character that truly makes this film the perfect thriller. Fincher really set such a unique tone for this first film, a very moody, murky atmosphere with a sickly green color palette that Fincher became accustomed to with many of his other films in his career. The color and look really captures the seedy darkness of our two leads explored through as they begin to trail to hunt down this serial killer, and we get a lot of unique background faces and settings as they go through their investigation. The city really is its own character, and the many dark, grotesque landscapes and settings in each of the scenes really stand out, and that's as much credit to Fincher's director of photography, Darius Khondji. movie. Not only is the cinematography pristine and immaculate, but the sound design is perfectly crafted to go with these really grotesque and disturbing images. The soundtrack by Howard Shore, though very traditional and not really groundbreaking, does work really well and is sparingly used in moments, so it really hypes up the intensity when it needs to. The opening credit sequence is creepy and perfect, filled with the terrifying sounds of the remix of the Nine Inch Nails song Closer. It perfectly sums up and builds the audience up into what is to follow in this amazing thriller. Not only is this groundbreaking in the thriller genre, but it also exists as a dark exploration of sin and humanity and the moral justifications we put on ourselves to act out when something grotesque or vile is committed. And that's very much represented not only in the protagonist's point of view, but the antagonist's point of view. This film has a lot of different perspectives, and instead of rooting for one side or the other, I mean, obviously you're probably going to root more for the protagonist's side, because the 7 deadly sin killings in the film are pretty vile, and I don't think anyone could really get on board with that, no matter how fucked up in the mind you are. But it still brings a lot of interesting perspectives throughout the film, from these characters, from Mills and Somerset to John Doe and their final confrontation. It brings out so many perspectives within the screenplay, and Fincher just nails the direction and tone perfectly. The film's pacing has its fair share of peaks and valleys, and when it goes up, it really holds and demands your attention. And even in the slower moments, there are so many instances of great character development and scenes, whereas in a more traditional procedural thriller, would prefer to bypass any serious character growth in service of the overall plot, and that definitely works for some thrillers, but for Seven, it really connects you with these characters, not in an overbearing way, or in a way that slows down the plot. So when the intensity sets up in you, you really get excited and scared for these characters. And how could I talk about Seven without mentioning the exhilarating climax of the final act? In their confrontation and arrest of John Doe, tension builds to a tragic conclusion where he has won the outcome of this dangerous game he has set up for these detectives. As he takes them to a field where a supposed couple of bodies are located, a package is delivered sent by Doe to Mills, containing the decapitated head of his wife Tracy, giving us the infamous "what's in the box" line repeated over and over again. It breaks him down enough to commit murder on Doe, as the scene concludes both satisfyingly and tragic for the character of Mills. I love this moment where Mills is basically fucked in either outcome of this situation. He has to live with the guilt that he inadvertently caused this. If he lets him live, he'll live with regret, and if he kills him there and now, he will have to face severe consequences. And it's such a wonderful and intense dilemma to set up for our lead character. At first, producers didn't want to go with this ending and even had a revised version with an alternate ending, but after accidentally sending Fincher a copy of the original draft of the script, he became adamant in sticking to the "what's in the box" ending. And even Brad Pitt joined Fincher, arguing with the producers to keep the ending in or he would walk away from the project, and they prevailed to one of the most shocking and exhilarating endings in film history. Seven is one of the greatest films to come out of the 90s and really set a stylistic tone for Fincher that he would excel with in many of his other films moving forward in his career. It's an amazing study of good and evil and really takes you to the most depraved and disturbing territories most thrillers shy away from. I really have no criticisms with this film, and I'm going to give Seven a perfect score of 5 stars. And that's going to be my review for Seven. So what did you think about Seven? Do you consider it one of Fincher's greatest works? Do you consider it his real debut feature? Or are you more of an Alien 3 purist? Whatever it is, let me know down there in the comments. I'd really like to discuss and hear what you guys have to say. Please like and subscribe if you'd be so kind. My name is George Ray. I want to thank you for tuning into this review in the first edition of David Fincher December. We got lots more coming up, lots more to discuss. Please remember to keep kind, keep cool, keep sane, and embrace great cinema, and I'll see you on the next one.